Hey guys, welcome to Disneyland. We are right outside Main Street here. This is part 2 of our video series on some tips, tricks, secrets of the Disneyland Resort. And so what we're going to do today is go through Main Street, show you a couple things, that kind of exciting little hidden away things, but also maybe some tips that we find there as well. Again, this is part 2, so hopefully you started out with the general video. If you did not, I would just press stop here and go to our general video, which kind of gives an overview of kind of what we're trying to do here. Again, a big goal is just to kind of help people out to have a better time while in the parks. This is not necessarily a definitive guide. This is just some of the things that kind of stand out to us as most fun or cool little things that the people that we travel to the parks with kind of enjoy when we show it to them or help them out with their trips there. So please, as you find things that we leave out here, add them to the comments on our YouTube channel just below. That way it helps everybody out in the community to have a great time when they come to the park. So we're going to take a quick tour around here. I'm going to show you a couple things. One thing though, just to start out real quick, if we look back here, I want to note just about the entrance. Make sure to check out on our general video. We talked about the entrance in the morning, particularly for the extra magic hours. So definitely listen in on that. As I said, you should stop here and go back to the general video if you've not already done that. But we're going to go take a little look around Main Street and see what we can find. All right, to start our trip around the Main Street, one thing I wanted to start out with was the Lily Bell. And the Lily Bell is a really cool car to be able to travel in around Disneyland if you're able to get on there. And so the Lily Bell is named after Lily Disney, and so it has a lot of ties to history. It's also the only cart left from original opening day of Disneyland. And so it has a lot of cool history. When you travel in it, you are traveling with someone. One of the cast members is kind of your guide and keeps an eye on you while you're in there, but it is a really unique experience. Now, be aware, it is very limited, and it has been frequently throughout the years something that's off limits, or at some points only for Club 33 members. We had the good fortune of really kind of being able to experience it the first time with the game The Optimist, and then a second time with our Club 33 member friends that were able to kind of help us figure out the system, or I should say they just guided us in there and were able to reserve it themselves. But for just the average person kind of in attendance hitting the park, just head up to the Disneyland Resort. This is the Disneyland Railroad right there in the morning. Right now it's currently closed, so I can't really bring you in to actually see the cart or anything like that. But head up there, ask them if they're able to get a reservation to ride the Lily Bell, if they'll let you on there. Again, sometimes during the year it's not available at all, so the only thing you'll know is if you ask though. If you are able to ride it, it makes for a really cool experience, especially if you're with some people that maybe are not as familiar with Disneyland or, have visited it a number of times but looking for something a little bit unique that you can bring to the experience. A ride on the Lily Bell is not something that everybody is able to experience. There's many people that will frequent Disneyland that have never even ridden it, as has been our experience with lots of our friends that are pass holders for many, many years, and they've never been on it or didn't even know it existed. So to take them a little piece of Disney history can be a fun thing. And again, you'll only know if you do check in the morning. If they're understaffed, if the park's overcrowded, if there's bad weather conditions, sometimes any of these things could make it off limits, but you only know if you check in. And so a good thing to do right off the start of the morning when you come in. So obviously off limits today, but hopefully you'll have better luck when you visit the park. All right, next up on our tour of Main Street is a kind of a secret bathroom. Not that it's, specifically meant to be secret, but we find that very few people know about it. So off to the side over here by Walt's apartment, which we'll get to in a minute, there are the bathrooms everybody knows about there. But over here by the guided tours, if you make your way to the back, there's nothing advertised anywhere. Also kind of a nice little secret place to sit sometimes, just kind of hide out here, especially on those really crowded days. But some people think this is off limits because it's cast members over here, but right here there is a quote-unquote secret bathroom, the companion restroom. So this can be a nice spot, especially for families, if you need a changing area, things like that. And obviously if you need a companion, disabled guests that are in need of that, it's a great spot too. But again, kind of hidden off the beaten track here. There's very few people we know that we go to the park with, again, that are frequent pass holders that actually know about this spot, so that may help you out. All right, so next up, as mentioned a moment ago, is Walt's apartment. And so this is an area that Walt Disney himself and his family used as a working spot within the park. Obviously, during his time, he was obsessed with the park and its success and put a great deal of himself into it. So he needed a place to stay where he could kind of break away from the crowds up and have a thinking room, and at the same time even be able to sleep at night. And so this is Walt's apartment. It is only accessible for special occasions, particularly the walk in Walt's footsteps tour, which if you're watching this and you've not done any tours, highly suggest checking those out. There's a number of them. Many of them are pretty cost effective too. They might seem pretty pricey at first, but if you really break down what you get out of them, it's an extremely unique experience. But that being said, our trip to Walt's apartment was actually during part of that game, The Optimist, which was a tie into the Tomorrowland movie, and so we went up there. They don't allow any photos or anything like that up there too much, but it's a neat thing even if you aren't able to go up into the apartment just to look from down below. They keep the light on in his memory. During Christmas time, they'll replace it with a little mini Christmas tree with lights as well, but it's kind of a fun little fact if you did not already know that about the park. Okay, so we are here at the center of Main Street, obviously. I want to talk just real quick about the psychology of theme parks real quick. This can help beyond Disneyland with really any park, but the natural way that theme parks are developed, the common way I should say, and the way we think really is everything's kind of right to left. So for the most part, you will even notice right now, the crowds mostly are flowing in on the right and flowing out on the left. And so obviously this is all facing the castle, coming in on the right and then coming out on the left. So anyway, that being said, is naturally, if you kind of know that, you can help avoid crowds by just kind of going the opposite of them. I mean, the downside is you are going to walk against the crowds like these couple people here. The upside is, though, during really crazy times of traffic, it can help you kind of work your way around, especially during parades and things like that. The other big thing about it, though, is planning your shopping and souvenirs and things like that. Back in the old days, the way parks were set up, right away you would have the photo shops right on the right, because people were needing to buy film, batteries for their cameras, things that they forgot. And even at this point, they still have the photo pass area and where you can buy like a battery or memory card or things like that at the end of Main Street on the right. But coming back out the park, then it's going to be on your right, obviously, as you walk out, is the major gift shops. And so the Emporium here is a place to avoid at all costs at the end of the day. So when you're leaving the park, again, it's just the natural psychology that on your way out, everybody's going to hit right over here. Consistently, there are lesser lines with nowhere near the amount of items, but still a good number of them over here across the way at the showcase. So, there's something to keep there. But what I definitely recommend is just buying your stuff earlier in the day and using the shipping to the front. So you can buy your packages, have them wait for you. You can check them in at the front gate and just pick them up on the way out. If you're staying in the hotel, you can even have them brought to your room. So that's all very convenient. Or if you don't want to check anything in, or you just don't want to shop in the middle of the day, maybe you've got the kids and you want to wait till the very end of the day as kind of the last thing after you've surveyed the whole park, is just make those last purchases somewhere else. Adventureland, Tomorrowland, Frontierland, wherever else. Not that they'll have the exact same concentration of merchandise, but mostly they'll have the same type of stuff. It's not that unique of an item that you'll find at the Emporium. So the Emporium's lines in those last couple hours of the night are just crazy crowded. And again, if you can just always kind of keep in mind the psychology of the masses and go opposite of that, it can help a lot. Same thing as you're thinking about entering the park in the very early morning. If you're here at rope drop, is the natural thought is to push towards something like Space Mountain off to the right. And not to say that that's not, if that's the number one ride you want to get to, obviously it's going to be lesser lines than earlier in the day. But by going to those other parts of the park, you can find a lot of times more success. This is particularly true when you look at places like Universal Studios, the various parks in Walt Disney World, maybe even more so than Disneyland. So just keep it in mind next time you're at a theme park at opening. Often known about Main Street is the awesome windows, and so the many dedications. We're just filming this little part here at Main Street because we were actually at Tony Baxter's window dedication about a year and a half ago, and it was really cool to see. And so as you probably know, the windows are dedicated to people who've made major contributions to Disneyland and the Disney Corporation as a whole, and have just left their mark. They must be retired, and it must be something that's obviously not going to be soon forgotten. What's fun, though, and the reason I point it out here is if you take your time, especially if you're a Disney vet, a lot of Disney vets don't take the time necessarily to go through all of the windows and look into a little bit of the history of each of the people that might be in those windows. There's a new book that just came out in this last year that you can check out. I believe it was Jeff Heimlich that did that with the windows of Main Street. And so definitely it's a cool guide to just kind of wander up and down the street. And again, if you're going to Disneyland with maybe somebody that's not quite as large of a Disney fan, on, which some of us face, especially in the summers when people are coming from out of town, but maybe they're a history buff. That might be a way to kind of snag them and get them interested in the park, is give them kind of a task, a little bit of a scavenger hunt, going through and checking out these windows, looking at a little bit of the history, because many of these Imagineers, is not just that their contribution was for the parks, which obviously that's why they're up there, but they've had major contributions just in what they've done for entertainment or history, sometimes advances in technology and things like that as a whole. And that might be a way to nab somebody that otherwise might not be dead set on being a Disney fan coming into it. All right, something really fun if you come by the Penny Arcade, at least I think it is, and I've found a lot of people aren't aware of this actually. And so if you visit Esmeralda, she's kind of an iconic piece of Main Street in and of herself. But if you check out her cards that she's reading, you might recognize the stretching portraits from Haunted Mansion. So it's a really cool deck of cards. I'd actually like to buy that deck of cards. But anyway, it's a cool little kind of hidden gem on Main Street outside the realm of something like a hidden Mickey that especially Haunted Mansion fans are going to love to check out. And as we come to the end of Main Street, as I said, all of the quality film developing, all of the photo stop is down at the end on the right, just by design. But one thing I want to point out is in the windows right here in the photo shop are some really kind of cool old-time pictures, and particularly what's cool is if you check them out, they change throughout the year seasonally. So we see some kind of Valentine's Day hints here, lots of pictures of love. I particularly like the Halloween ones. The Halloween pictures are really awesome. There's some creepy old stuff in there. So always worth a check throughout the year. It's one of those tiny little parts of the park that, you know, shows the attention to detail of what people do love Disneyland, or Disney in general. It's just paying attention to those little things. And so it's why you can kind of come to the park so many times the way that we do and always have fun looking for what's the new tiny little thing that might have changed. And so as you can see here, all kinds of cute little connections to Valentine's Day. You're not going to see this on the Disney Parks blog. You're not going to see any big advertisement about it. It's just kind of a fun little thing that either you notice or you don't. All right, and then here we find ourselves at Coke Corner, another iconic part of the park and Main Street. Right now, Michael's playing at the Ragtime Piano. You'll find that various artists are playing there throughout the day, throughout the weeks. Ragtime Roberts is a huge fan favorite, but in general, they do some great little performances here. A very cool thing to see. Also, oftentimes, you'll see kind of guests come in and jump in on the piano. So we've been by here before and seen the Sherman Brothers visit or things like that, and so it's kind of a cool area just to stop by, take a look. The other thing that happens in this area that's kind of an a little hidden gem that's really fun, especially for kids, is around 2 to 2:30 most days. We've seen a couple days where it didn't happen, but the Mad Hatter and Alice visit here and do musical chairs with the kids, and so it's a whole like little mini performance. Again, it's one of those things you will not find in any show guides, but can be a really fun magical moment for kids. And I know even as an adult, it was a fun thing to record. You can check out on our YouTube channel. We've recorded one of the times with them. It's really interesting what a grand thing they make such a little game, because as the kids are eliminated, it's not like it's something bad. It's like they give them an opportunity to be interviewed and talk, and they make it really fun for whoever the kid might be. And it is maybe one of the best examples of kind of that hidden Disney magic that Main Street offers. Okay, a little past the photo shop, we've got Plaza Inn, and one of the big kind of claims to fame for me with Plaza Inn at this current time, is at least, is they're one of the very few places to offer refills on drinks, and that can be an important thing, especially if you're spending a long day with the family at the park. In addition to that, they're very kind and cool. If you ask one of the cast members working in there, they will even supply you with a to-go cup. So not only can you get your drinks in there, but you can load the family up with to-go drinks to take on the road. Getting a free drink at Disneyland or getting an extra drink at Disneyland is a very rare thing, and makes it quite a good place to put on the map as maybe a possible stop. The other thing about just the restaurants and the food in general, and why Plaza Inn is kind of a nice stop, is unlike Disney World, or the Magic Kingdom at Disney World, I should say, one of the things I really like about the Magic Kingdom much more than Disneyland is just the food offerings. There's much more there in terms of selection, sit-down restaurants, and all of that. Disneyland does not have that, really, outside the Blue Bayou and Club 30 33, you really don't have options too much for restaurants. So a lot of it is really grab and go counter service type places. And although this is kind of a cafeteria style, you grab your tray, you stand in line, you get your food. It does feel a little bit more like a restaurant, so it can give you a little bit nicer feel if you want to take the family for kind of that one better meal and you're not going to eat at the Blue Bayou. This might be the place to go for all of those reasons. Okay, we're finishing out here, coming to the end of our trip down Main Street with just something that's not any big secret, not any big tip really, but just something that's often overlooked, which is the transportation of Main Street. The fire engine, the carriage, the omnibus, all of these things, they have pickup and drop off at the two ends of the street here, right in front of the castle, as well as right at the front by the train station where we started our tour out. And just want to point them out because it seems no matter how many times we return to the parks with people who have been longtime pass holders, who've been, a million times, one of the most common things we hear from them is just that they've never tried out the Main Street transportation. And especially those who only do a few trips a year or maybe even less than that, it seems kind of a very common thing that the feeling is just, you get here in the park, you get super excited, the adrenaline gets going, you want to get on Thunder Mountain or Pirates or whatever, and this just seems maybe a little too slow. And the fact of the matter is, really, if you give them a try, I think you'll really enjoy them, because I feel like really a Disneyland trip isn't complete in many ways without taking a trip on at least one of those pieces of transportation up and down. It really brings you back. It may be the best way for me, at least, to transport me to the Disneyland of 60 years ago, when it was opening up, and riding down Main Street in that old-fashioned way. It really does take you back in time, and I think it just provides some of the best views of the park, and it's a really cool way to take Disneyland in. So hope you enjoyed this trip around Main Street. Again, not that it is totally comprehensive. Again, I'm sure there's some things that'll show up in the comments, that maybe some even that I'll hit my head against the wall and say, oh my god, how did I forget that? But really do appreciate any support that you will give, again, to our endeavor here to try and provide people with a way to enjoy the park in a way that maybe they haven't before. So hopefully there was at least one thing in this video that was new, or a cool tip, or even if you knew all of them, hopefully it was something that maybe will remind you to pass it on to somebody who's not as familiar with the park. For those of us that attend a lot or are really interested in Disney history or listen to 100 different podcasts or things like that, oftentimes I think we overlook some of the coolest little treasures to share with people, and some of the easiest and simplest tips that are just secondhand for us. We might not pass on to those visitors to the park that don't come quite as frequently. We may get wrapped up just as much in taking them on Space Mountain or whatever the cool ride is as they do. So good way, hopefully some of these tips, tricks, secrets will help you to kind of put the park in perspective for those that you travel with, or maybe for yourself, so that you enjoy it just a little bit more. Until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.